evening. There's a large crowd here this evening, and that itself should be recognized. I hope my son Mendel brings this kind of a crowd to the banquet. And we do all thank you for coming. What does the Torah say about a grandparent? Well, when my first child was pregnant with our first grandchild, so we have in the Torah, who's wise? Ein chacham kibal nisayon, or experience is the best teacher. So what's wisdom is a person of experience. Is some feedback? Okay. So I called up my sister. I have a sister who's 20 years older than I, and she had a number of grandchildren. And I say, Olga, she's not here tonight because her granddaughter got married last night, my great niece, Esther Fagan, named after my mother, and she's at the Sheva Brachas, my sister Olga. There's just the two of us left. And she's 20 years older than I, as was explained before. So I say, Olga, what does it mean to be a grandparent? I'm going to be a zeda, a papa, I'm going to be a grandparent. I've never had this experience before. As Robert Zaroon once said, how does it feel? What is it? What is the experience? So my sister's education was interrupted when she was 14 years old. The Nazis came to Vienna, and there was a big assembly. And my sister was a very reserved, shy, 14-year-old girl, pretty blonde. And there was an SS officer standing with the principal and started reading names of people who would be expelled from the school because they were Jewish. He read my sister's name aloud, and she had to walk down the aisle to the exit to leave the school because she was expelled. And as she walked down the aisle, so there was snickering, and some of her former friends were laughing at her. This is something she never forgot, although it's been 70 years. So she said to me in her streetwise way, well, I'll tell you two things about being a grandparent. First of all, like a lot of experiences in family dynamics, it's like the blind man in the sunset. It's something that cannot be explained, whether it's a simcha or a tragedy. Lahavdil, certain of those experiences cannot be explained. And the second thing I can tell you is, it's the greatest thing in the world. And she was right on both counts. But what does the Torah say about being a grandparent? It says that Tif'erez Zekenim, what's the beauty of old age? B'nei Vanim, the children of your children. The almost immediate response to the tragedy was quite overwhelming, just in the sheer volume. I brought some volumes here for show and tell. This is one volume. There's another volume just like it. These are just emails. There's nothing in here but emails. This has 300. The next volume has 500, not counting the 100 or so that Olivia got. So we're talking about, in less than 7 days, over 1,000 letters of condolences. And they keep coming in. That's called family, not blood. The extended Jewish family, the cosmic Jewish family. I'm actually going to be brief, but I have a few more things to say. It's interesting, 1,000 people is almost like a Gallup poll. You can actually begin to stereotype or to learn things and sift the wisdom with 1,000. Let's say out of 1,000 emails, it's interesting to see how many people wrote the exact same words. About 100 of them had the same 4-word subject line. 100 out of 1,000, 10%. There are no words. It was said by my friend David Suisse. It was said before. You said it. You say it. There are no words. Another 100 volunteered to do whatever to help out in any way possible. Another 60 began of these emails. You don't know me, but. There's so many people have questions and are in need of some answers. Just very briefly, as an aside, I have a very dear friend who's a therapist, and I would study with her the deepest Kabbalah because her father was a great Orthodox rabbi. She had a great Torah education, and I would study for about 2 years. We studied together once a week for an hour and a half, advanced. And she calls me up. She never asked me for anything, and she said, "I need a favor." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to New York tomorrow. What is it?" She said, "There's this family that they were out last night, Halloween, and the 7-year-old daughter stopped on a dime, died. And now it's before the funeral, and I'm about to go over the house where they live. They have 3 other children, and I want you to come with me. This is not a job that I wanted." This is when, I'll speak for myself, some rabbis don't want to be rabbis because they're waiting for you to walk in this house with a mother and father and children after this kind of a tragedy. A 7-year-old girl passed away, and you should make it good. You should make it better. So there is a book, actually, Rabbis. You can get it on Amazon for cheap. It's a coffee table, and it has no page numbers, but it's alphabetized. And I wrote the story of this family, and I wrote the story of them and what I told them. Anyway, eventually, the father actually became a rabbi, and the family came very close to Judaism. There is a place that Jews look for answers. The Torah has many names: Torah Hashem, the Holy Scriptures of God; Torah Chaim, the Torah of life; and Torah Emes, the Torah of truth. When something like this happens, people are looking for truth. Please allow me to digress a bit for an important definition of God. This is a short true story of the miracle of the definition of God agreed upon by 15 different religions, including Judaism. Snowmass, Colorado is next to Aspen. It's physically beautiful and has been chosen as the meeting place for a group called the Snowmass Conference. Every year for 5 days, 15 different ministers of different religions gather together to discuss a topic, different topics. And one of these 15 people is a Jew. When the Dalai Lama won the Nobel Peace Prize a few years ago, he was at a conference called the East-West Conference. There were 1,000 people there, mostly Jewish people. Olivia and I were giving a Jewish workshop, meditation workshop, so we were there too. After the conference, I was approached to be the next Jewish rep at the Snowmass Conference. The Jewish person retired, that rabbi, and I did it for 6 years. 1 year the agenda was, let's try to come to a unanimous definition of God. The Buddhists and the Vedantists and the Yogas and the Christians and the Muslims and the etc., etc.